Seoul-Beijing relations has never been the same since the fallout that began in July last year. That's when South Korea decided to deploy THAAD to upgrade defenses against growing threats from up north. Expressing strong opposition to the move, claiming the anti-missile system posed a national security threat, China responded with drastic measures to hurt Korean businesses reliant on Beijing. Finally, we are seeing visible signs of a long overdue turnaround, the latest being Seoul's foreign minister making her first visit to China to fine-tune preparations for an upcoming summit. For our news features tonight, Hyesung sheds light on how the two sides can learn and grow from the experience.
A detente, a joint statement by Seoul and Beijing on October 31st announcing the normalization of bilateral ties. Then back-to-back talks between South Korean President Moon Jae-in and Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC summit. And this week, South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa is on her first trip to Beijing to meet with her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. All this after more than a year-long standoff between the two countries after Seoul's deployment of the THAAD system resulted in China's unofficial economic retaliation against South Korea.
The THAAD conflict only ended up worsening their relationship without China being able to reverse the THAAD deployment. It also drew South Korea even closer to the U.S., undermining China's interests in the region. So following the Party Congress, during which Beijing announced its new foreign policy of forging friendlier ties with its neighbors, we are seeing a normalization of the diplomatic relationship.
The improved relationship has also spread to the economy. South Korean companies cashed in on China's Singles' Day online shopping bonanza, and South Korean stars are back on Chinese state TV again. It's not just Korean businesses. The tourism sector, which was hit hard by the fall in Chinese tourists following the travel ban, suffering an on-year drop of 60% between March and August, is now slowly seeing a growing number of Chinese tourists visiting the country. Already, Chinese group tours to Korea have resumed. Streets in Myeongdong are once again packed with Chinese tourists.
I bought a lot of cosmetic goods and snacks for my friends and myself. Korea has good quality products.
This thaw in economic ties is encouraging news for the Korean economy, which suffered an expected $7.8 billion of losses from the THAAD backlash this year. But experts say the relationship won't return to how it was before the falling out over THAAD.
The THAAD conflict showed the need for a change in the economic relationship. China has industrialized rapidly, and now Seoul and Beijing compete in many manufacturing areas. Instead of exporting intermediary goods to China, there needs to be a shift to finished goods and services. That's why at the foreign ministers' meeting, the two sides will likely discuss the negotiation of the free trade agreement.
The free trade agreement between Seoul and Beijing that came into effect in December 2015 cut tariffs for goods, but not for services or investment. Along with discussing how to start follow-up negotiations for trade and services, the two foreign ministers are also expected to discuss how to cooperate on China's One Belt, One Road project.
President Moon's new northern policy that links the Korean peninsula with China and Eurasia has much scope for cooperation with China's One Belt, One Road project and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, such as South Korea's expertise in infrastructure construction and banking services.
Another key issue is North Korea, especially as Beijing seems to be exploring a new approach in relations, with President Xi sending a special envoy Song Tao to Pyongyang, the first ministerial-level Chinese official to visit in 2 years.
Time is running out. North Korea is nearing the final stages of its nuclear development. With U.S. pressuring the North with sanctions and military threats, South Korea and China need to understand each other's approach to the North and coordinate ways to solve the threat through dialogue and pressure.
After the long standoff over THAAD, Seoul and Beijing have agreed to normalize relations, with a summit between President Moon and President Xi scheduled for next month. But amid heightened tensions and changing geopolitics in the region, it's vital for the two countries to work on their relationship so that it not only benefits both parties but also helps bring about peace in Northeast Asia. Hyesung, Arirang News.